No jet lag?
Not that much.
Okay.
We're on pay, hey on the base.
86. Oh, no, 85B.
On the bottom. Boy Rava. Sheves hapoichsim bedomim. Somebody who's on disability because he can't work. And his value has decreased. Mao. What's the case? He got so he got hit on his arm and it atrophied. And he can't do his normal work, but the soifa laxor. But later on, he will be able to go to work. Since he's going to return, maybe he doesn't get like a depreciation payment. But now he's depreciated. Toshma. Hamaka avi v'imo. If you strike a parent, philosopher and chabur didn't make a wound, so you're not chayv misa. If you wound somebody Yom Kippur where you're chayv kores, and there's no monetary damage, chayiv bekula, you still have to pay the 5 items. But somebody who wounded his parent, loss of a chabur hekidami. Isn't it lav kagon shikal yado that he struck him on his arm? He can't work now, but the sofa lachzor, it'll eventually be healed. Uktari chayv bekulan. Yes, yet it says you have to pay all 5. We're on pay vav amid aleph, near the top. He caused his parent to become deaf, but the loss of a chabura, but there was no wound that bled. Harold, we're on pay vav 86.
Great.
Amid aleph. Harold, are you going to be on the other side of town for Shabbos?
No, I heard you are.
Yeah, we'll go to the Kiddush.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, 'cause they asked me to come because they wanted me to talk about your father.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, that's what they told Yaakov.
Oh, okay. So nice.
But I got the, I got the other thing.
Very good.
V'amar Rabba, acharish es aviv, if you deafen your father, you're going to be killed for that. Nera. You can't cause somebody to become deaf without him bleeding. Because tipsa de dama nafle budne, there's some blood that is in the inner ear somewhere, even though you don't see it. So what's the case? You gave me a haircut. Give me a haircut, well, it's going to grow back. In Gilchum, Hadar. Buy, that's our Shaila. Adri, my skin on, you're going to Sacho Nasa. You didn't cut his hair with scissors, but you used nair. You used the depilatory. Because lohada, that doesn't grow back. So, tsar, why is there a pain? The isla kartuf neberesha. For example, he could have blisters on his head, kartufni, and he has pain from those blisters because of the nair. Ripuy de boyasya, he needs medical treatment. Sheves tabarakid bekuvi. Let's say he danced. The boy machvi guni aresha v'lo machvi mani kartufni, and as part of his dance, he would show his hair. And now he won't do it because he's embarrassed because of blisters there. Boy should say lecha boy should call me that. There's no greater embarrassment than shaving his head so everyone sees these blisters. Umilsa the boy leila rabba pshita leila bailachkisa. That which was a question for Rabba was simple for Abaya. The Rabba lahachkisa, the bailachkisa, ditmar. He called Yodav at Samsa. He struck somebody on his arm and it atrophied. But the sofa laxer is going to grow back. You give him he can't work, which includes payment for his hand. Visheves Ktana, the part that he can't go to work. To give him both. Rav Amar, you only pay the daily rate during the days he can't work, but not the money for the hand. That's the sheet of Abai and Rav. Now, Abai and Rav will argue in a different issue. You cut off the hand of an Eved Ivri of your neighbor. You have to pay the Eved the fact that he lost his hand. The Sheves Ketana, the days that the Eved can't work for the master, you have to pay that to the master. Rava Omar Kol Yinosin LeEved. You give everything to the Eved. Yilakach ben Karka, but he buys land with that money. The master can eat the payros during the period of time that the Eved cannot work for him. So pshita in piches, if you depreciate the value of the Eved, it's latzmo, but it's a rabbaloi piches. Let's say the master can still get the work out of him. Well, what's the example that hechidam? The paskila reish une. You cut off some of his earlobe, all the reish nehire, some of his nose. For the master, there's no difference in terms of the work that could be done for him. But for the Eved, there's a difference. So hakol latzma. There, the payment goes to the Eved. Piches, it's a rabo. So if it caused financial damage to the master, then look the Abaya Barova that we discussed before. Boishes, the embarrassment payment, it's relative according to who the person who did the embarrassing and who was embarrassed. Mani Masnisen, Lok Rav Meir v'Lok Rav Yehuda, Ela Rav Shimon. What is this? This not. The Kulon, if somebody was embarrassed, Roino so, Ki Iluim b'nei Choyrin, v'yardu min cheseyim. We view everybody as if they were wealthy people and lost their money, even though they're not wealthy now. Why? Shem b'nei Avram, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. Jews have a good ancestry, so we treat them equally. Did Rab Meir? Rab Yehuda Omer, no. Somebody who's wealthy, his embarrassment is going to be worth more. A wealthy person, we view him if he had his money, but he lost it. And aniyim, an ani is seen as the lowest of the aniyim, because we want to be lenient regarding this kind of payment. So money. Rav Meir must need to call his bayish, and according to Rav Meir, kulabadi adorinu. Our Mishnah said it goes relative, but Rav Meir says everybody's equal. Rav Yehuda must need kitani hamavayish asuma. If you embarrass a blind person, chayiv. But Rav Yehuda Omer suma ein lo boishas. You can't embarrass a blind person. Allah must be Rav Shimon. What's afilu teme Rav Yehuda? You could say it's Rav Yehuda. When does Rav Yehuda say that you can't embarrass a blind person? That's a blind person who embarrassed a normal person, to collect payment. Because he's a summa, he didn't see what he did. And we'll see, boishes, you need to have kavana to embarrass the person. Obviously, the summa is not having kavana. He didn't know who he was embarrassing. But to give a summa, when you embarrass the blind, you have eaten late. You certainly can pay him boishes. But Tani Seifa, I'm a vice Yosha. You embarrass someone who's sleeping, chayiv. The Yoshan should be a sleeping person who embarrassed somebody, chayiv, potter. It's only there where there's a Mishnah machlokes. We didn't say v'lok tani v'suma shabayish potter. Doesn't say a blind person who embarrassed somebody is going to be potter michlal. The loishnach and loishnachi. We cannot be machalik by assume in any case. So we don't say it's Rabbi Yehuda Machmar to Rabbi Shimoni. So man Tana the Tana Rabban. Who is the following Tana? Niskavin levaishas hakot levaishas hakot. Person had kavana to embarrass a cotton, and you end up embarrassing a gadol. Nois legadol dmei boishta shel cotton. You pay the gadol what you would pay if you embarrassed a cotton. If you had kavana levaishas ha'eved, uvaishas ben chorin, you end up embarrassing a non-eved. Nois ben chorin dmei boishta shel eved. You pay the value of what you would have to pay the eved. Money. Lo Rab Meir, lo Rab Yehuda, lo Rab Shimon. Why not? Because the cotton, we're not talking about cotton in age. We're talking about cotton ben Achasim, he's poor. Gadol means Gadol ben Achasim, he's rich. So Rab Meir, Homer Kula Badadi Adadinu, we said Rab Meir treats everybody the same. There's no difference between a wealthy person and a poor person. Rab Yehuda Homer Ein Lavodim Boishas. Rab Yehuda said that there's no boishas payment to an eved. Rab Shimon Homer Niskavin Levaishas Zeh Vaishas Zeh Potter Lagamri. If you had kavana to embarrass A and you embarrass B, there's no payment. My time a kiktola, just like murder. Magtola ad shemiskavin lei. You have to ambush that guy and kill him. If you have kavana to kill Reuven, you end up killing Shimon, you're not chayiv. Achiskavin lo. Boshas nami ad mechavin lo. Embarrassing, you have to have kavana for the individual person. The woman grabbed onto the man's testicles. But if it wasn't kavana for him, kavana for somebody else, you wouldn't pay achis kavin lo. Lolom Rav Yehuda, v'chikom Rav Yehuda en lavodim boishes. When did Rav Yehuda say that you don't pay an eved lemeisvuleh to give them payment? Av lemeishim shaminim bu, but to assess their value, how much embarrassment they have, and you'd have to pay. Remember, we said if you had kavana to embarrass an Evan, you end up embarrassing a Ben Choyrin, you have to pay the amount that you would pay the Evan, you have to come up with a valuation. So that's how you do it. V'boy sema l'meishim shaminim buhu. V'boy sema afilu temer of Meir. Mi savish gadol ben achasim, cotton ben achasim. Who said we're learning about an ani and an usher? Gadol is gadol mamish. Above bar mitzvah, cotton mamish. So the cotton bar boishesu? A cotton doesn't have das. Can you embarrass a cotton? In. Kidam Rav Papa. The michlam uleo michlam. We're talking about he's of an age where if you embarrass him, he becomes embarrassed. Al-Chanami, the michlam uleo michlam. Mishnah. Hamavaisha sa'arim. You embarrass a naked person. Well, you can't. He's already embarrassed. Hamavaisha sasuma. If you embarrass a blind person, vaisha sayoshin, in all these cases, chayiv. The yoshin should be eish. Somebody who was sleeping and embarrassed somebody else, potter. Somebody fell from a roof. He damaged somebody on the ground and damaged him and embarrassed him. Because he didn't have kavanah to fall on that guy. If you embarrassed a naked person, you have to pay. But ein a mida, ein a dome, by sha'ar by shalavush. The amount you have to pay is going to be less than if you embarrass somebody who was dressed. If you embarrassed him in the bathhouse, Chaya, but Dana Doma, Bisha Beis HaMechaz, Abaisha B'Shuk. The embarrassment is less. Amar Abaisha Aram Chaya. I understand. Aram Bar Boishasu? Can you embarrass a naked person? Amar Papa, my Aram. Ta'asu Zika Karchin Lamane. He was wearing a toga. The wind came and lifted the toga so you could see him. V'asahu the Lenet Tvei Vaisha. The person raised it higher. So you could add to the embarrassment. Baisha Beis HaMerchatz Chai. Beis HaMerchatz Bar Boishasu? Can you embarrass somebody in a bathhouse? On Rapapa Shabishal Governor, he was taking a bath in a river. And normally you do there the tznius. So here the tznius was ruined, so there would be embarrassment. Boy Rav Abba Bar Mama. Bisho Yasham. You embarrassed the sleeping person, but umes. The guy you embarrassed died while he was sleeping. He doesn't even know that he was embarrassed. Now, Maikam Aboyle. What are the sides of the question? Amrat Zvid, Mishum Kisufa. Is it that the person suffers for the embarrassment of being embarrassed? This guy died, so he's never aware of it. Odilma Mishum Zilusa was Poigan is covered in front of other people. And therefore his reputation and standing went down among other people. So even if he died, he's entitled to payment. His heirs are. Toshma, Rameir Omer Chersh v'Katan, Yeshlan Boishes. A deaf mute and a cotton, you can embarrass them. But Shoite, Meshigine Eno Boishes. So Iyam Bishlam Mishum Zilusa, if it's because of reduction in COVID, Hainu Ditani cotton. So even though a cotton doesn't have das and can't be embarrassed, there's zilzul, he's depreciated. If the person himself is embarrassed, cotton doesn't have das. So Elamai, what are you going to say? You've answered the question. So afilu shoyte. Why shouldn't you have to pay shoyte? Amri shoyte. He's already a Michigan. There's no greater embarrassment. You can't be mezalzel him. So we call Malkam Nifshit Minei Shemishum Zilusa. Okay, at least we've come to the realization that the payment is for Zilusa, not because of Kisufa. The Imishum Kisufa, cotton bar Kisufa, cotton you can't embarrass. He says, no, you can't. Rav Papa. The Mechlam Ulei, he reached an age where if you embarrassed him, he will be embarrassed. Rav Papa Rachi Kama Boile. This was the Shal of Rav Abba. Mishum Kisufa Didei, who it was a personal embarrassment for Maisley, and now he died. Odilma Mishum Boishes Mishpach. Maybe the family was damaged. You have to pay for the family's embarrassment. Toshma, Cheresh Cotton Yeshlo Boishes, Shoyd Nein La Boishes. And at Meshigana, you can't embarrass. So I understand. I know the Tani Cotton because his family is embarrassed. Eliyamet Mishum Kisufa Didei Cotton doesn't have boishes. Cotton bar boishes? No. Elamai Mishum Boishes Shobnei Mishpacha. So it works. But then Afilu Shoita Nami. If you embarrass the Shoita, the family will be embarrassed. No, Shoita Elcha Boishes Domizu. The family is already at maximum embarrassment with a Michigan. So you can't embarrass them more. So at least now Nifshut Minei, that the issue is Mishum Boishes Mishpacha. The Mishum Kisufa, Cotton Bar Kisufu, on Rav Papa, yeah, in the Mechla Mela Mechla. We're talking about a child that's old enough that will be embarrassed. Va'atanya, Rabbi Yomi, Cheresh Yesh La Boishes. A deaf mute you can embarrass. Shoyte Ein La Boishes. Cotton, Pamim Yesh La, Pamim Ein La. Cotton, according to Rabbi, will sometimes be embarrassed. How? Had the Mechlam Olei Mechlam. Had the Mechlam Olei, if you embarrass them and you see that they got embarrassed, then you'd have to pay. Hamavaishas Suma, if you embarrass the blind person, you're chayiv to pay. Masnishan Shalok Rav Yehuda, the Tanya Yehuda Omer, Suma Ein Lo Boishes. Rav Yehuda says if a suma embarrasses somebody, he doesn't have to pay. The kachai Rav Yehuda point there, mechayev glias umechayev malchus mechayev mitzvahs bestin. If a blind person committed any of these sins, you wouldn't give him malchus, you wouldn't send him to Golus, you wouldn't put him to death. My time at Rav Yehuda. Gomar einecha me'edim zomim. It says by Boishas lo tachos einecha. Don't close your eyes. Then it says by edim zomim lo tachos einecha. Ma'asam sumin lo nechlalim. You can't be an edim zom if you're blind, because they didn't see anything. Afacha suma lo. So Rabbi Yehuda learns a hekesh to the din of Boishas. And chayve glias. Why does Rav Yehuda patur them from going to Golus? The Tanya. It says below ra'os, without seeing, prat l'suma, to Rav Yehuda. It excludes the suma from going to Golus. Rav Meir the opposite. L'Rabos is a suma. It includes the suma to go to Golus. My time at Rav Yehuda. Why does Rav Yehuda Mamait exclude them? The person comes into the forest to chop wood. Afilu suma kosav rachman. But then below ra'os is lemu'uti, is to exclude the suma. What does Rav Meir say to that? Kosav rachman below ra'os, lemu'uti. Yes, it's exclusionary. But then kosav rachmana asher lo yakeh esreu bivli das is also lemu'uti suma. Because there's suma doesn't have das, he doesn't know where the people are. So that's havi miud achar miud. A miud achar miud el rabois. It's a technical inclusionary statement, miud achar miud. So a suma would be in the category of golos. What does Rabbi Yehuda say about that? Hahu bivli das. It's not to be memayit someone who doesn't know. It has to do with kavana. Prat lemiskavinu das. That if I want to kill Reuven, I end up killing Shimon, you don't go into Golus. Chavim is based in. How do you know that a blind person, if he does an act that normally would give capital punishment, he's potter? Asli rotzech mechavi Goliaths. Because we already excluded a summa from going to Golus. It says rotzech by Golus. It says rotzech by murderer. So we have a hekesh. How do we know chayve malkios that a summa is potter kon Rav Yehuda? Ask your Russia mechayve mitzvahs bestin. It says Russian, v'haya im bina kosa Russia malkus, and by murder it says vasheru Russia lamus. So madach by mitzvahs besdin, the summa is potter. Here also he'll be potter. Tani de chayudam summa ein lo boishas. There's no embarrassment impairment for a summa. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to learn at 7:30.